Hi, Guido Fox here. Welcome by a new book report. Today, I want to discuss with you this wonderful book from Osho, The Hidden Harmony. Nearly 250 pages of wonderful information, and you see here my highlights. 250 pages of amazing, wonderful information about your spiritual growth, about your mental Champions League, about your inner ecstatic chakra awakenings. And he was mentioned in his book a lot of fragments and discourses from Heraclitus, the old Greek spiritual guy. He was not a philosopher, Heraclius. He was a spiritual guy, and there is some very useful information about Heraclius. And Osho was reading his work and incorporated in this wonderful book. Let's start. Heraclitus was an enlightened person, and they call them also Heraclitus the Obscure, a very obscure person. And even Aristoteles, I think you know this famous philosopher Aristotle was saying that Heraclius was a mad guy. An enlightened person will be always seeing from the crowd, from the rationalistic philosophers like Aristotle, as a mad person. If you step into deep meditations from hours and hours after years and years, you are becoming a rare, flowering, incredible, happy, enlightened, chakra awakening person with a light field around you, and people are staring at you all the time, and you're so open and you're so high sexual vibe, and you're so social, and you're so open for the world, that you become a very, very different person than the standstill evolutionary crowd. So you're the one who escaped the society matrix frequencies, who are coming maybe in 1,000 or 2,000 years. So with meditation, you can escape the evolutionary development. So therefore, Jesus was said, I am before my time. I am much too early for you guys. I focus only on my only nine disciples. Jesus had only 9 followers. Very sad story. Only 9 people were able to feel his energy. Only 9 people were trusting him. Only 9 people were ready for the next steps in life at that time. So an enlightened person is attracting not so much people. only a few can able to feel him, have their high sensitivity levels, and accept little bit the obscurity of this person. So I can also understand Aristotle when he was saying Heraclitus the Obscure, because he is living alone. He needs a lot of time by himself to be in line with God. He was living also in the nature, Heraclius, so that was also a little bit strange. And if you meet this kind of person who is opening up, who is awaked in a kind of stage, then he can see your soul. You cannot hide yourself for this person. This person is unwavering your mask, is unwavering your ego wall, is seeing your hidden motives. So you can be a little bit scared for this guy because he can see immediately what is going on in your dark soul. What are your hidden motives? What are your insecurities? So one touching with the eyes of an enlightened person can maybe give you a little bit an uncomfortable vibe or attitude, because it is very unusual if you meet an enlightened person. So Heraclitus the Obscure was a very, very rare flowering in the Greek history. Page 26. The original word of sin, and in the Christian theological texts, a lot of moral teachings were about sins, right? You not going to have sex out of your marriage, right? That's one of the biggest sins. You are not going to use drugs, or you're not stealing. So you have a lot of sins in the theological text, in the teachings, in the Bible, in the lessons there. But in the deepest form, what Osho discovered, and I think Osho had it from Heraclitus, was that the word sin means miss. If you are sin, if you feel sin, if you feel guilty, if you're feeling yourself jealous, then you miss something. And the deepest word of sin, and no priest is telling that to you, they not knowing, I think, the deepest word of sin is miss, and you miss consciousness. So if you are in line with your Amrita Nadi line, your 7 seals, your 7 wheels of life, Jesus were telling about the 7 seals. He was telling about the graankorrel, the way, the small way in your body, the opening of your hridaya. He was talking about an inner awakening process. If you're not there with your mind, if you're not with your mind there to find the knack, or so we're telling about the knack, if you're not there with your line, if you're not in line with God consciousness, And I'm not talking here about the flatty reasoning of your meditation teachers of setting your feet on the ground and be connected with earth. I'm telling about a deeper form here, and that's your God consciousness. I'm telling about finding the Amrita Nadi line, the three hearts on a row, the two palm chakras, the third eye chakra, and your crown chakra. If you're feeling them and you give them attention and they become warmer and warmer and warmer, you are there and you miss nothing. You miss nothing, and the chance to be sinful, to be in the overdrive, in the overstress, in the jealousy, in the condemning, and your negative vibes about people will disappear. So the chance on a sin is nearly disappearing if you are there in every action you do in life. You are there, and that's calling contemplation. So, contemplation is there with every activity you do, and enlightenment is the most difficult thing you can reach in life. Meditation is the same. With meditation, you're also going to the seven seals. You give them attention in once, or you pass by the chakras in your body. So, therefore, if you're there, page 41, in awareness, jealousy never arises. Comparing is never arises. The matrix is comparing. It's a comparing construct. So you're constantly looking to someone as a female who's more beautiful, is more successful, maybe more children. You're comparing to your colleagues, maybe is doing the work better, and by a man, maybe the other guy is more masculine or the other guy is making more money. So you're constantly comparing, and you think by yourself, okay, I'm not defeating this guy in money challenge, but I have more muscles, so I'm better there. So you're constantly in a comparing mood. So the matrix is based on comparing and jealousy, competition, way of being. And if you're in your God consciousness and you find your highly ecstatic inner feelings, then you don't care anymore. You found your biggest treasure on earth. You found your drugs. You found your constantly alcoholic events. You found your ecstaticness after years and years of hard working, of meditation and contemplation. So you're not really care about others. You're not can fall into sin, jealousy, comparing, or dragging people down in your environment to become more powerful or something, or you're feeling yourself better if you're hurting others, or you're putting people down because you're insecure yourself to raise up your so-called self-confidence. So the more you're away from sin and you miss nothing because you're becoming a feeler and not a rationalist like Aristotle, you become that rare flowering in the matrix, that rare flowering in society. Then you are there. And since sinful activities will not rising up, The chance is so low when you're fully consciousness that you go into stealing or you go into violent behavior. There's little chance in your fully consciousness awareness that you going there. Page 89. The past has to be destroyed. The past, your traumatic experiences in the matrix has to be destroyed, has to be dissolved, has to be healed to become in your second life, to become a thrice borner. They call that in spirituality. You become a twice borner. You made a new God child in your inner line. You become a new person, your new self, your non-ego person. The ego is dissolved. You're moving to another dimension and reality. So you moved to another flux frequency out of the matrix stress hurrying system, another planetary skill of moving around at ease. So the past has to be destroyed. A new raising up is coming for you if you're following my teachings. And it is nearly my 300 book report, so that's wonderful, right? Read nearly one book per week in the last 6-7 years. That's a lot, right? That's amazing. So destroying your past, heal yourself to opening up to something new. Don't cling to the past. Page 189. Remember, youth is a quality of being. And that is why the enlightened person is so different from the rest. They are shaped in the matrix and they coming in the so-called serious matrix. You become a serious, stiff-minded, egocentric person, stiffed in the and trapped in the entanglements of society, and everything becomes so serious that there is no time for joy. There's no time for sing and dance and meeting new people and being open and cheerful. You're in the stiff matrix conditioning where you are not allowed to smile, not allowed to make jokes, not to be a free thinker, not to be an expressive person who is good in his vibe and attitude. The sprankling personality is suppressed by the matrix. And if the matrix suppress this rare flowering, then you cannot step in the thrice river. You have to become a twice-borner to feel your youth again. You're playing youth. Your extremely happiness, maybe in your lower school age, right? When you were riding with your bicycle outside, you were playing in forests, you were joking around, and you were smiling. And enlightenment and spirituality is also finding your second youth again. It's like an not a midlife crisis, but I think the midlife crisis is a start of your spiritual journey, riding with your motorbike in the highways and showing off a little bit. But to be a twice borner is actually finding your youth, and I say not temporarily finding your youth. I say that you can be always youth. You can always be connected with God. And God is a child too. It's not only a wise man. I'm not only a wise man, I'm also a child. I'm a wise man, a very old soul, and a child together. And you are too. You're a child and a wise person together. You can combine that, right? So don't suppress anything. Stay partying and totally express yourself. Shine to the outside world. Stay smiling and don't fall back in the fear of expressing yourself towards the outside world. Page 212, the last one. You cannot find greater egoist, so-called spiritualist, than the spiritualists who are always talking, condemning materialism. When I started here my company, I was involved in some spiritual mediocre groups of mediocre teachers who don't read any books, who don't write so much blogs. And they always start with, oh, we're living in a consumption society. Oh my God, we are always consuming and we buying nice big houses and cars. And they condemning materialism and they calling themselves spiritual. They're not buying expensive clothes and expensive watches. They're thinking they can find God to throw them out. What is always a combination and balance? You can have a big house and meditate there and become enlightened. Oh, don't worry. God, God is going through, his energy is going through big houses. Don't worry. You can be perfectly in line with your knack, God consciousness, in your Ferrari Modena. So, if you buy things, I should say, do it with full consciousness. So, if you buy products, if you're going in the supermarket, do it with full mindful consciousness. If you really like your Ferrari, if you really like to buy expensive biological food, do your thing, right? So the condemning of the matrix is there again, right? So what I mentioned in the mediocre spiritual groups here in Amsterdam was so easily condemning materialism, what Osho and Heraclitus is saying here. and always condemning the outside world for people who are not into spirituality, easily condemning others is also non-spiritual. So it's a balance, it's in two parts, it's a combined parts. Materialism can go hand in hand with spirituality. And maybe even more, you have to go through the phase of materialism to understand that's not giving you the biggest treasure on earth. So maybe you have to go through that path of big cars and houses to come there that's not giving you anything. But you can be always appreciate the things what is coming to you. Always appreciate when people are giving you wonderful presents and gifts. That's very useful and nice to accept. So I should say not declining materialism, but really enjoy the high quality Gucci t-shirts, right? It's made by hands and attention, I think. So enjoy also the richdom in this world. Thank you for watching, and I see you by the next book report. Bye bye.